All right, so here's what we're going to have to do tonight, because we have had 5 different groups go on different trips this summer. We would be here till next Sunday if we allowed everybody to share, okay? And so what we're going to have to do tonight is kind of give you some snapshots of what God did in different places. And so we're just going to kind of walk through that, all right? And so all the pressure is not on any one of you tonight. We're all going to get to share just a little bit. And so let's just dive in tonight. I'm going to start with Mr. Kelly right here. If you can give him that microphone. Kelly went just in the last couple of weeks, right, to Texas. And was it around the Houston area?
It was, just northeast of Houston.
Okay. And those, I believe, were the storms that came through in late spring. Is that right?
Hurricane Beryl came through, I think it was late June.
Okay. Midsummer then.
Midsummer, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Summer.
So he went along with several from our church and spent around a week out there, maybe a little bit over a week.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they were there doing a lot of skid steer work and clearing of, chainsaw work, those type things. And so I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions about that, just so that our church understands what our disaster relief ministry does. And so tell us kind of what that trip was like. What were you involved in? How many did you take? All those kind of things.
Well, we had 4 guys that really went. 2 from our church, 2 from Mount Olive First Baptist. I got a call, and Steve Knox got a call like 5 days beforehand, said, hey, we need a chainsaw team to go to Texas and help clear trees out for people that have had trees blown over on houses. And so we gathered together real quick, and we got 4 of us that could go. We drove out there, 12-hour trip one way. Once we got there, there was a base set up. Alabama Baptist Disaster Relief had a base set up in Huffman, Texas. And we all gathered there, and we would get assignments from there. And it would be a list of people that had come and said, hey, I've got trees down on my house. Insurance isn't going to cover it. I don't have enough money to cover it. Can y'all help me? And we had a long list.
Yeah.
So we would take that list. I'd take, 5 or 6, whatever we thought we could cover that day, and we would go out to the different places, and we would take a look at what they had, and we would just cut their trees. The association had a skid steer there, so we would use their skid steer and clear out, put all the wood on the road, and just help these people out. And, it was a lot of work. It was hot as all get out. You say everything's bigger in Texas. Well, the heat's bigger in Texas than it is here, too. But the big thing that I get out of it, I love doing the work, and I love working with the other guys, but helping the people that are there. And every time we get together, we'll pray with the people, and we'll try to minister to them and, present the gospel if it's available. And that's the big thing. And because most of these people, I think there was a handful that didn't go to church at all.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it.
So Southern Baptists have a disaster relief network of churches, and we're a part of that. And so we have multiple guys who are part of that disaster relief team, and they can be called out on a moment's notice. And it's basically if they can go, they go. And so they kind of answer the call that way. And so if you're interested in that, I would encourage you to talk to Kelly or talk to Steve Knox and get involved in that, because that's something that you can use your talents of being a man, all right, doing some manly things. You can use your talents like that out on the mission field. And I promise you, there's probably some ladies who can outwork a lot of those men out there, and they're doing those things too as well. And what's really cool about it is it's not just Enon Baptist Church doing it. It's Southern Baptists going out, and they all wear yellow shirts. Is that right?
We all have yellow shirts that say, disaster relief, Southern Baptist Disaster Relief Team. Then we'll have Alabama. And there's guys I met from South Carolina, from Georgia, just all over.
Yeah. And what you encounter a lot of times is, listen, you're going out to people on the darkest days of their life. and you're out there ministering to them, doing things for them that they could not do for themselves, and it opens the door for the gospel. And many places, many times you hear stories of after a disaster and these groups go in and they help, and you'll hear about the yellow shirt guys. Those guys were different. They were here to help, and we get to be a part of that. And so that's so cool. So thank you, Kelly, for sharing.
Let's say one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
It's not just chainsaw teams and all that. There are people out there that do like the back support. There's people from Alabama that come help just to feed us.
Yeah.
And they have showers set up. They wash our clothes, and they do all kinds of the background work that
that make
helps
it possible.
us, makes it possible for us to go.
Yeah, for sure. And we're so excited about that ministry, and it kind of flies under the radar a lot of times. But I promise you, this is a ministry that God's using, and I think if it piques your interest, then I think that may be God pricking your heart there. Your daughter went, so if you'll pass the mic to her, she went to Puerto Rico, right? And so Sarah and Kelly and Melissa went with us last year to the Amazon, and I think Sarah, even before that, was thinking about, hey, is mission something that God wants me to do, that kind of thing. So Sarah, tell me what your experience was in Puerto Rico, just kind of the work that you did there.
Yeah, so I went with the organization Sin Relief, and so the city we worked in was Ponce, Puerto Rico. It is on the south end of Puerto Rico. So basically, we were assigned to a team. Me and my mom. There was us, a son and dad team together, and then a son, mom, and dad. And so we all worked together, and that week we were assigned a house to work on. And so basically, when each day that we went out to this house, we were there to paint it. We were there to fix the roof, because the house was literally a couple of streets down from the ocean. And so the reason Sin Relief is there is because in 2017 a hurricane came through and absolutely destroyed the island. And one of the cool things is the guy who's over the ministry at Sin Relief, the reason this got started and the first people that came to assist them after the hurricane was the disaster relief team from America. And so making that connection was so cool. But basically every day we got out there, we would pray with the house we did. It was an older lady. Her and her sister lived right beside each other, and so we worked on both of their houses. And so, we labored. I'll admit, it was not easy. It was hard. It was hot. It was the middle of July in Puerto Rico, and so you were sweating. It was not easy work, but it was so worth it. Getting to love on these ladies through the simpleness of just showing that being in the hands and feet of Jesus to them throughout the week. And you can see each and every day that we were there, just loving on them by painting their house. Like, they saw that as such a gift and a blessing. But you could see each and every day they became more receptive to us. They would become more receptive to we had a girl with us she knew Spanish. The ladies did not know English, but this girl with us knew Spanish. Each and every day you could see her working on the hearts of these ladies. And, though we could not speak with them, have full-on conversations with them, we were that seed that was planted in order to start that conversation with these ladies. And if we weren't there, then how, who would have gone to them for them to know about Jesus? And so the last day we were there, our lady that we did the house on, she gave her life to Christ, and it made all of that hard work, all of the blood, sweat, and tears worth it. And it was just an awesome experience, and it's an adventure. Puerto Rico is a beautiful place, and the Lord is really working in that city of Ponce, and it was just a blessing to experience that.
And Sarah was working with the IMB there, the International Mission Board, and she actually just went on their website and found a place to go, I think. Is that right?
Or Sin Relief website,
Yeah, the Sin Relief website. And correct me if I'm wrong, the motivation to go was to see, hey, is this something that God wants more from me in? Is that area? Yeah. And so you can pray for Sarah on that, just that God would be, clear and definitive there. And it's just amazing what we're trying to do here in our community, building gospel bridges, and then you share the gospel, is the same thing we're doing on the mission field. Painting houses or cleaning up after disasters, those type things, those are gospel bridges. That's what we're trying to do, and we share the gospel in that, and people respond because they see how much you care. And so thank you, Sarah, for sharing. I'm going to let Mr. Mark share. He went with our group that went with the North Jefferson Baptist Association a few weeks ago. They went to Eau Claire, Wisconsin with the Builders for Christ. And so, Mark, tell us just what kind of work the group did while you were there.
Like you said, this is a group that we tie up with every year through our associational to Eau Claire, to the Haven Church in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. This church started a number of years ago in a house. Over time, they went to rented property. And then we had the opportunity to go and work on their first church, their first building. If I remember right, the church is averaging somewhere around 200 on a Sunday. If you're interested in maybe a first-time mission trip, this is a great trip to choose. One, it's probably the most economical trip that you can go on, because thank you for the send account that helps us offset our cost to do this. But it also is one of those that you're not placed in a dangerous situation or called on to be leaders and all. Even if you don't know construction, we also have a group of ladies that go out and try to do Bible studies with the kids in the community during the week. We also carry a group of cooks with us. Praise the Lord for them cooks. This is the only trip that you will come back weighing more than you left. Most of our work that week was purely construction. We had sheetrock hangers. We did framing. We did a lot of electrical work. We did framed-in windows. It's all based on where this project is when you get there. The project started back in the spring. Then they kind of have a plan for what we do. And so when you get there, you got to be very flexible with what you can do. If you don't know how to hold a hammer, we will find something for you to do. It's a great, very enjoyable. It's not one of those trips where you get to go out and talk to lost people, because you're working 8 hours a day. But the concept there is that they're putting this church on a very, very busy highway, and we're helping them get to a building then that can draw the lost to that building. Yeah. So we might not have shared the gospel with anybody during the week, but in a big way we did by building this church for them for the first time.
Yeah, you just got to look at it as a bigger picture of how does my life fit in? How does our trip fit in? Those kind of things. And a lot of what I like in that is that it's kind of like the disaster relief. There's a connection to other churches who have been there before. Like all the way from the spring, there have been church after church after church coming, and we just get to be a part of the bigger work.
I asked the pastor, they were going to spend about $4.5 million on this building. I asked him, how much did Builders for Christ save you in bringing people in, giving them a week of their time to come in and work at the church? He said they estimated around $1 million of free labor that was brought in over the summer to help construct the building.
Yeah. That's incredible. And it's not just North Jefferson that does that. Those Builders for Christ go all over the place. So. And
it can be, we had a young person about 9 with a grandmama there that helps with the cooks, to very senior adults. Charlie's not here, but I was going to call him out. Up to that age. So there is something that every age group can do.
Yeah, it's a great trip for families.
It really is.
So. All right, I'm going to jump all the way to the other end to Mr. Waylon and Christina. There's a microphone right beside you guys if you just want to grab that one. So this is Waylon and Christina Hinkle, if you don't know them. And they went with our group to the Amazon this summer, and it was such a joy to get to know them a little bit. And so what we did on this trip is we did medical and evangelism. And I don't want to separate those two because our medical team did evangelism as well as they were there. But half of our team did medical, and then half of our team would go out and do door-to-door visits in the heat of Brazil, and had a lot of great encounters along the way. A lot of people gave their life to Christ. We had 65 professions of faith that week, shared the gospel with over 300 people. It was just an incredible trip. I think we saw around 140 in our medical clinics. Just some incredible things. And so you guys tell me specifically what you two did while we were there.
Start, Doctor.
Okay, so I'm a pharmacist, and so I was the pharmacist. Basically we had 3 providers that they would be able to see. We had Dr. Tubbs and then his nurse practitioner from work, and then Jennifer Spencer, nurse practitioner from church. And so we had a couple of nurses and people that would do like triage and kind of get everybody kind of checked in and figure out what they're going on. Then they would see one of our providers. And then what I did is I just prepared their medications in the back and consulted with the providers as far as what limited resources we had to work with, what can we have, and how can we use that best to address the needs of these people. And so that's what I did, really, more administrative, organizational, clinical consultation stuff. But that's what I do anyway. Yeah. So that's like God spent 10 years putting me in pharmacy management, so that then the minute I quit, I end up going to Brazil and learning how to manage pharmacies in another country. Yeah. So it was just funny. It's like, I've been prepared for that, I guess. That's my role. He was more evangelism.
So I'm not in the medical field, but I was on the evangelism team, and it was an incredible experience. I'm not just saying this because we went, but if you've never been on a mission trip, especially an international mission trip, you got to go now. You got to go now. You can't wait. It was incredible to see how God moved in a whole nother country, in a whole nother language. I know a little bit of Spanish, but Portuguese is a different ball game. So I was in the clinic, and I was with Roger. Got to meet Roger. Love you, buddy. So he's like, "Hey, you want to do evangelism? You're going to be on the evangelism team." So we were the last stop while my wonderful wife was preparing their medicines. I would share the gospel using an EvangeCube. I wish I would have brought it tonight. That thing is amazing. It's almost like a Rubik's Cube, but it's got pictures and it tells the story of Christ. And just what an incredible experience. The first day, I got to share the gospel with multiple people. We had a few salvations that day. The second day at the clinic we were busy the first day, but the second day we had a ton of people because our wonderful assistant pastor got the great idea of giving somebody, like $5 to go around the city. Hey, we got a clinic going on for 2 hours. And man, they came. And it was amazing. It was incredible.
Correction, it was $10.
Okay.
And he drove around the city for about 2 hours with a big, like a speaker about like this, behind his, it was either a bicycle or motorcycle, just blaring that we have a clinic. And so people just started coming all day long. Yeah. And so Waylon, it was just an incredible picture. He got to share the gospel like probably 10, 15 times at least with groups of 5 to 8 people at a time.
Yeah, at a time, yeah.
Yeah, maybe even more than that. And so, it was so good to see him. And then Steve also came and started sharing with him. And, hey, medical clinics, we want to, again, build gospel bridges and meet needs, but then share the gospel with them because there's a greater need that they may or may not know that they have. And we just saw person after person after person give their life to Christ. And so we also went into some schools, those type of things, and did a lot of different things there. Let me ask you guys this. What was it, what one thing did God teach you on that trip?
God taught me that, even though you may be fearful in certain situations, that God will give you peace and calm. Because telling someone the gospel is one of those things you got to get right. You can't be a can't get right. You've got to get that right. And so I was nervous, fearful, especially with language barrier. But we had amazing interpreters. And I deal with a lot of interpreters with work, and to see them and to see how amazing they were and how Christ-centered they were Even when you don't think that you're going to have the words, God gives them to you. God gives them to you. And one of the best things was the second day when Steve came. I got to see Steve. God used Steve to lead an entire family to Christ. It was a father, mother, and son, and entire household to Christ. And that second day, it was just like, gospel after God, salvation after salvation. It was incredible. It was incredible. And so I couldn't say any better things about it.
By the way, that's Book of Acts kind of stuff. It's like this person got saved and their household. It reminds me of the Philippian jailer. Listen, our prayer is we want to see the book of Acts come to life in our church, and that's what's happening on the mission field. And God's just been faithful in that. Christina?
Okay, what was the question?
The question is, what one thing did God kind of show you on that trip?
God showed me, I guess, that it's not just about what we do to help those people. And in my Bible reading at home, I read something kind of recently, I guess right before the trip maybe, about how like giving is not just about like, the gift doesn't just bless that person in that way, but the gift is blessing the giver and ultimately blessing God, because you're meeting that need very physically and causing them to give thanks to God. And so by reaching out and giving of yourself, you are definitely helping that person, but ultimately you're giving glory to God. And that's a big part of it. And I think he taught me that it's not just about meeting those needs that desperately needed to be met. And we did the best we could. There were times we didn't have exactly what we needed and we just had to do what we could. But we did what we could to meet those physical needs. But ultimately it was for God's glory. And he also works on you, the one going to point out things in your own life that, like, I'm still very, very afraid of talking to people. I don't like to talk to you right now with the microphone, but I'm still definitely afraid of talking to people. So, I mean, there's still things I've got to grow on too. So it works on everyone.
That's so good, though. So biblical. All right. If one of you will pass the microphone to Corinne and AJ there. This is Corinne Burnett. She's the one that got, did I say something? All right. Corinne Burnett. She's the one that was baptized this last Wednesday night at Student. Yeah, we're so excited. And this is AJ. Is that right? Am I getting that right? RJ. That's what I said. That was funny. All right. RJ, but he's got the coolest last name in the world. His last name is Grenade. RJ Grenade. And so they were part of Jerusalem Project. And Jerusalem Project happened just a few weeks ago, right before school started back. And we had about 50 students that came and stayed on our campus right here. And they went out to the local area and did missions around here. And so these two were part of that, and they are part of our leadership in our student ministry. And so just a couple questions for you guys. First of all, what mission projects were you a part of that weekend?
Me and RJ were actually in the same group, so we did the same things. We went to nursing homes. We went to Mormon Jordan, and we did some yard work. We went to Jimmy Hill Mission, which was my favorite thing that we did. It was really awesome. And I think that was it. Did we do anything? That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
And so probably one of your first experiences in missions, I would say, maybe one of the first. What is it that God kind of taught you to individually on that weekend?
He definitely taught me that just loving someone goes a long way. Like when me and Maddie Matchin, we went and we were singing at the nursing home. And I'm not a good singer at all. But I was just singing my heart out for the Lord and for these ladies. And one of them talked to me afterwards. She was like, "This is the best thing that's happened to us in a long time." And I was like, it was just so sweet to see that. And then at Jimmy Hill Mission, it was just really just loving people. Yeah. Like we were serving them food and talking to them, and they were so thankful. And you could just see how happy they were that we were there and that we were talking to them and we were spending time with them.
Yeah, that's so good. RJ?
Yeah, for me, it was definitely caring and serving for others. And one of my favorite experiences was at the Jimmy Hill Mission. I had the opportunity to, go around and pray for everybody individually and stuff, and pray over everybody before we ate lunch. And it was just a really cool experience because I was able to sit down and talk to some of them, and they were just really cool people. And including myself, I feel like a lot of people they don't see the bigger picture of their lives, and that really helped me. And I think that really taught me to go care and serve for others, because coming from a not church home, I'd say, and being around amazing people this past year or so, and going to experience something like that. That really taught me a lesson.
Yeah, that's so good. God's working, man. That's so good. One of our prayers is that we would see laborers sent out. You know, we want people to come, but we want God to send laborers. And laborers means we're going out and we're doing the mission of Christ. And best I can tell, out of these 5 groups that went, out of Enon, we had close to 95 missionaries that went out this summer. Isn't that awesome? And so we are so thankful for these guys and all the others that they represent. Thank you if you went with us or you gave. Thank you. You're a part of what God did around the world and even in our local area. And so thank you guys for sharing tonight. Let's give them a hand, and you guys can have a seat.